Welcome to Manu Forti Ministries presents Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny. I am your host, Reggie Key, and my distinguished guest today is Cora Sutton. Cora, how you doing?
I'm excited. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm excited that you're excited. I don't think I've ever had, not that people come on like depressed and fearful, but I don't think I've ever had someone just like off the rip be like, I'm excited though. So I appreciate that energy. That's going to make for a very interesting session. So you and I just kind of formally met one another at this conference that we had at the Kingdom Advancement Center. You're part of Jehovah Meshach Ministries, which is run by Prophet Joanne Henderson down in the good state of Texas. It takes a lot for me to say the good state of Texas because I'm from Maryland.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, the Cowboys are not my. We're gonna moving on. We're gonna do like Bernie Mac, moving on. But I invited you on the show because God has given me a message to process and to disseminate to his people that is an empowering message. It's a message of encouragement. And it's about genius, right? So let's just start how I start every interview, every workshop, and just ask you, Cora, do you consider yourself to be a genius? Yes or no?
No.
All right. You are in the majority, and you let me know, and I've been reaffirmed many, many times that this message needs to be out there because by and large, most of us don't consider ourselves to be geniuses. I hope to show you something different about this word that begins to have you kind of renew your mind in how you think, to repent in your thinking. And by the end of the interview, I hope to ask you this question again and see if your opinion of yourself has changed. All right, is that cool?
Okay.
All right, let's go. So my follow-up question is this, and this is a very important question. Who comes to mind, just like the minute that you hear this word genius, what image or what name comes to your mind?
Oh gosh. Geez, the very first person is Albert Einstein.
Yep. He's the number one answer, Cora. Not that there's what you'll find out very shortly is that there are plenty of different types of genius, but for some reason, we've grown up programmed to think of genius in a certain perspective, and that perspective is tied to Albert Einstein. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Einstein. I do believe that he was a genius, right? Stuff that's still being proven that he theorized with the greatest telescopes that we have that are seeing into the farthest reaches of the universe are still proving the theories that he came up with. However, Sister Cora, Einstein was just one type of genius. And we've been we've been programmed to funnel every single aspect of genius through his lens. And that's not the correct way to do it. Because when we do that, we ascribe genius to Einstein. And at the same time, we discount it from ourselves because we're like, I ain't Einstein.
That's true.
Right? My IQ, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't think I've ever taken an IQ test. I don't know what my IQ is. My GPA was low when I came out of college, when I came out of high school, right? Like we put all these stumbling blocks in our way that prevents us from accessing something that you'll see in a little bit is quite accessible to everyone. Right. So there's this movement that I'm a part of called Genius is Common. It's a hashtag. Did you watch Def Poetry Jam back in the day?
Did.
On HBO? So the person whose brainchild this was, his name is Bruce George. And when it moved from being on HBO to having an online platform, they were opening it up for anybody to submit poetry, submit haiku, and then you would compete on a monthly basis for the haiku of the month and the poem of the month. Managed to get haiku of the month and poetry of the month back in the day. And and Bruce George reached out to me. He just dapped me up like, yo, that was good stuff, right? So him and I formed this relationship. So a couple of years ago, it had been a long time since I had heard from him. It wasn't like we was boys or nothing. We just, he reached out, I responded. But God put his name on my mind and said, reach out to Bruce George and see what he's up to. So I did. And I was like, Bruce, what's going on? And he was like, hey man, I have this brand that I'm creating called Genius is Common, where he's saying, I want to remove the elitism that's attached to this word genius. Like only certain people can aspire to be genius, and the rest of us are just, whatever, right?
Yes.
He's like, genius is common. Everybody has it. And I said, huh, all right. So he's in New York. I was in Chicago at the time. I was like, yo, whatever I can do to help spread it out here, I'll do. You know how God works, though. He took that little piece of information and paired it with some other information that I had learned over the years, and he helped me come up with a definition for genius. And that definition consists of 3 components: passion, talent, and purpose. And if you understand what your passion, talent, and purpose are, which some people do and some people don't, then you can unlock the genius that's on the inside of you. That's how we're going to redefine this word. All right. Would you say you're passionate about some things?
Of course.
Yes. In a little bit of time that I've gotten to know you, yes, you are passionate about some things. Would you say that you have talents?
Yes.
Would you say that you have a purpose in life?
I do have a purpose.
Well, then doggone it, Sister Cora, you have genius on the inside of you. All right.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. So we're going to talk about it. So I have a quote. I have 2 quotes for you. You know what? I was on my way home. I got a new element to this workshop, to this interview that I've never had before. So I was on my way home. I told you my daughter was singing. So she just came from, this theater class. And the Lord was telling me this week, like, show her Lauryn Hill. Teach her about Lauryn Hill. Like, show her how Lauryn Hill started off at the age of 13 at the, the Apollo Theater and got booed. And show her the progression of her growth, how she went from a 13-year-old getting booed on stage to being one of the most sought after artists of our generation, right? And so we're listening to the album on the way back home, and I hear the song that bears the same title as the whole album, the whole record, right? And she says this, and I'm gonna probably bring this back later on. She says, and every time I tried to be what someone else thought of me, so caught up, I was unable to achieve. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my whole workshop summarized. So we're going to get at that. All right. So from that quote, well, first of all, I've been talking a little too much. So I'm gonna pause for a second. Like how that quote hit you?
Geez, just at a young age that she already figured out that there's just absolutely nothing she can do based on somebody else's perspective. A lot of us miss that. We still walk around what your family thought of you and said that you could be, and then you go into the corporate America where I am, then you have these rules and regulations on how you should be over here. We become conformed of everybody else's ideas, and we completely lose who we are in the midst of it.
I'm about to turn it back over to you. You can run the rest of the interview. Here you go.
I'm good.
No, but you're tapping right into it. So check it. From that quote, I'm going to go to a quote that purportedly comes from Einstein. The Facebook algorithms are telling me now that this might be false information. It might not be from Einstein. It doesn't matter. The quote is an important one. So are you ready for another quote?
Sure.
Let's go. Here it is. You let me know if you've heard it before, and then like how you internalize it relative to what we're talking about as it relates to genius, okay? If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking it's stupid.
Oh, never heard of that one.
Okay.
Wow.
You need me to say it again?
No, but picturing this fish who naturally swims, trying to climb a tree with no legs and arms, it's automatically self-sabotage. It's defeat from the beginning.
It is.
Wow. Okay.
It's more than defeat though, right? My fault. You sound like you were about to say something else.
No, I just said, oh my gosh, because okay, go ahead.
You processing. So look, it's more than defeat, because if a fish stays out of water for too long, what's going to happen?
It's going to die.
It's going to die. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That fish is going to die because it's been taken out of its element. Fish have scales, they have gills, they have fins. They're streamlined because God created them to excel and to function in water. But when you take that fish out of its element, you remove its genius, and now you're having it do something that it was never purposed to do, and it'll die trying to do it. Now, we're not talking about physically dying, but I am a firm believer, Cora, that if you miss what your purpose is in life, if you somehow get into another destiny that was never meant for you, that is akin to death.
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
So I see a lot of dead genius around me. And I feel like God has purposed me. One of the things he's purposed me to do, at least in this season in my life, is to resurrect, resuscitate, and revitalize the dying genius that I see around me.
That's deep.
It is kind of deep, right?
Ooh.
I get excited about it because would you agree, Cora, that the world is broken?
Yes.
Do you know why the world is broken? There's many different reasons why, but can I share with you why I think the world is broken?
Yeah. Why do you think the world is broken?
Outside of sin, right? Because that's the reason why the world is out of pocket is because of sin. But the brokenness that we all see on a day-to-day basis, we always look at it like somebody should do something about that. Somebody else should do something about that. And the somebody else that should do something about it are the Elon Musks of the world, are the people who we think have something to contribute greater than ourselves. When in truth, the brokenness that we see that afflicts us, Elon will never see. Stephen Hawking never saw in his lifetime. The brokenness that afflicted you, Cora, Einstein never saw. Einstein is dead. Like, why are we attributing genius only to people who are in the past tense or who have never seen the world that we live in, the world that affects and impacts us? And so the brokenness that we continue to see around the world is because not more of us have realized, hey, I'm a genius and I have something to do to contribute to the brokenness that can fix the issue that I see in front of me. We keep waiting for somebody else to do it because we don't think we've been licensed to do anything.
Yes. We set our own self up with these limitations. We just don't ever take that step to go ahead and move forward. You may have the idea, you may want to, but you never will. Or a lot of us,
out of it.
You know, a lot of us just like, nah, I'm gonna let them do it.
Yep. Yep.
And they may have the desire to do it, but the fear of what somebody else may think or what have you stops us a lot. We just don't.
Yeah. We abdicate our authority is what we do. And the devil loves that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna snatch up that authority that Jesus got back for you, Christian believer, right? I'm gonna take that right from you. I'm gonna convince you that you don't have anything so that you'll just leave it around and I'll take that. And I continue to be the prince of the power of the air as long as you keep on abdicating your authority. Thank you.
Man.
So the genius is tied up into this authority. So we'll touch on that a little more explicitly very shortly. This idea of a fish out of water from this quote, which becomes like a metaphor, allegory, whatever you want to call it. I imagine that this fish is like a sentient fish, like it can understand, it can speak, it can definitely understand when it's being spoken to. And I see it as someone has come by, taking this fish out of water, and then every day comes by and is like, hey, you climbed that tree yet? And the fish is like, nah, I haven't. And maybe the first couple of times the fish was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, that's stupid. Why would I climb this tree? But after days, weeks, months, years of conditioning, of course, the fish not gonna last out of water that long, but after all this conditioning, the fish is going to forget where it comes from and start to be like, I should be climbing this tree. Why can't I climb this tree? I'm dumb. Something is wrong with me. And so the tree and this person who has convinced this fish to do something it wasn't designed to do represents a system. And we'll talk more about systems in a little bit. All right. So that's kind of the foundation of where we're going.
Okay.
All right. Any questions, comments so far? Anything additional?
No.
All right, let's get it. So in order to figure out what our element is, like we know right away that a fish belongs in water. Matter of fact, Cora, I know we've been through a lot over the past 2 or 3 years with the pandemic, but if I look outside right now and I see a fish in a tree, I know it's pretty much a wrap. It's time to get off the planet. Like, it's over. Because we all know that's not normal. That's not how fish functions, right? Unless, I've seen some, the flooding that happened in Florida. I've seen some fish caught up in a gate, like the flood waters came and then they subsided and some of the fish got caught in some stuff. All right, but that fish ain't going to be alive. It's going to be clearly dead, right? So the natural order of things revolves around us understanding our authority on the earth and beginning to right the wrongs that grieve God, ultimately. Like sin grieves God's heart. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
And so what did he do to address the sin that's on this planet?
Well, he flooded the earth.
He flooded the earth before he even flooded the earth, though. What was his solution? You don't know? Yeah, you do.
No.
He made someone in his image and likeness to be fruitful, to multiply, replenish, and subdue the earth. Right?
Yes, he did.
He made the Adamic race. He made Adam. Adam slipped up pretty shortly after his creation. And then God had his backup plan, which was to create from the lineage of Adam, from the lineage of David, Jesus, to come and restore our authority so that we as a church can begin to do what the original mandate was and take over the planet and bring it back into the kingdom of God, to rid it of the sin that grieves God's heart. But how do you know what it is that you're supposed to be doing in the earth? That's a viable question, right?
It is.
So the things that grieve God's heart, he will give us a portion of his heart so that we'll grieve the same way he's grieved. And when we get that grief, when we see that thing operating, most of the time, Cora, we're introduced to it at a young age, actually. Like we're traumatized by something that's broken in the world that affects our lives like it affects nobody else's. And that trauma then begins to inform where our true ministry is.
I believe it.
But of course, that word ministry, we don't learn that till we're older. But as you get older and you kind of separate yourself from that trauma and try to heal from it, when you see it operating on somebody else, you're gonna be like, ooh, I hate that. I see that. That's not right. That's unjust, right? Because it triggers whatever you've been through, right? Or maybe a loved one has been through. And so this concept of figuring out what it is that you hate is actually what drives your passion as it relates to this genius. All right. Like typically, just like I asked you about Einstein, what words come to mind when you hear the word passion?
Oh gosh. Well, I just drew a blank. Passion for me, whatever this thing is, it doesn't leave me. I constantly am reminded about these things. Yep. I want to engage in it. I want to fix it. I want to share it with somebody else. I want to grow it. I want to improve in whatever this passion thing could possibly be.
Yeah. Previous guests have said things like, it's the gas in my tank. And when you get gas in your tank, you're either going to go up if you're a rocket, or you're going to go forward if you're a car, right? But you're going to go forward. You're going to be propelled into something. Passion is drive, right? These are the things that word encapsulates what it is that you just said, right? When you tap into your passion, don't nobody got to tell you to do it.
That's right.
Right? Don't nobody, matter of fact, people got to tell you, like, yo, pump your brakes. Like, like, can you slow up? Like, no, I cannot. Right? Once you're in it, that passion begins to define your element. Once you just like the fish in the water. And so this concept, I got to give credit where credit is due, just like I dapped up Bruce George. I got this concept about passion being tied to what you hate. Because, most people, eventually when I ask kids this question in schools, they say like, well, love. They think of passion, they think of love. And I'm like, that's cool. But when it comes to your genius, when it comes to what you are purposed to do, when it comes to what you may go to college for, notice I said may, because you don't always have to go to college. I say, look, don't focus on what you love, focus on what you hate. Like save love for marriage, focus on what you hate to figure out what it is that you're meant to do in life.
Yes.
This concept I got from this book called The Assignment by Mike Murdoch. And he basically said that. Like I read this and I was like, oh, this is good. He said, look, if you want to figure out what your assignment is, your God-given assignment, you got to tap into what you hate. Because like you said, it'll never leave you. Whenever you see it, you're like, man, you'll adjust it for free. Right? You won't care. Like, you're not paying me. I really don't care. I need to address this thing.
Right. We need to get this right.
Yeah. It becomes very much a David and Goliath moment. Because remember, we talked about systems. The tree and whoever this is that's programmed to condition this fish to think that it has to climb it represents a system. And systems, Cora, are not small. They're status quo type of elements that incorporate a lot of things that are larger than us. But when you got passion on the inside of you, you won't care how big it is. You'll be just like David, like nobody going to do nothing. This dude been talking trash about our God for 40 days and nobody going, you know what?
I got
it. Back up, bro. I got this, right? And you won't, he didn't care that he was 9 feet tall and David was having, well, David wasn't a king at the time. David was guarding sheep from lions and bears. And he was like, yeah, let me try something though. And so we're going to get into a little bit, once we progress from passion to talent, we're going to get into how you can, once you identify what it is that you're passionate about, the next logical question is, well, how do I address it? How do I approach it? How do I fix it? Right. So I have a real life example for you that really begins to hone in on how this thing works. Because, you know, some people, when I say hate, they be like, I don't like that word. But they be like, I don't hate anything. And I'm like, okay.
Tell
right?
truth.
But it's okay when you know like what it is that we're getting at as it relates to a God-given purpose that you have in your life. So let me do this. I'm gonna tell you a story. Is that okay?
Okay.
So I took this message to some elementary school kids once. I knew the principal, and she was like, hey, look, I got these 10 minority kids in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. They're in one class together all day, and they need some encouragement. Can you come through and say something to them like this, you know, once a week, Friday? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I was workshopping this whole genius thing. So I came in ready. I'm like, all right, what's up, fellas? I was like, hey, look, let me tell you something. Each of you is a genius. And Cora, they looked at me like, dude, you're in the wrong class. Like, and one of them got offended, like, don't call me that. Like, almost like, you know how sometimes we use genius sarcastically, like, yeah, wrong answer, Einstein, wrong answer, genius. He reacted like I was saying something insulting to him.
Yes.
When all I was trying to do was positively affirm him. But did something sound off about 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders being in one class all day?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So you know what class it was, right? We would have called this special ed back in the day. But now we say everyone's on individual education plans, IEPs, right? That's what the boys were on. So, you know, they have received plenty of negative affirmations and they have begun to be conditioned to accept them. You have ADD, you have ADHD, you're emotionally unstable. All these negative things they were used to. That was old hat to them. Matter of fact, they started roasting one another right in front of me and they thought that was hilarious. Like, you more comfortable with like negative affirmations than positive ones. So, but I understood, like the fish, they were conditioned. So I said, all right. I said, let me ask you a question. And I asked them one of the same questions I asked you, not about, you know, who do you think is a genius? We did talk about that. But the question about hate, I asked them. And these boys lit up. They was like, oh, word? You gonna ask me what I hate though? And Cora, these 10 little boys who could never agree on anything, like what to play, what game, when to play it, who's sitting in what chair, whatever. All these boys identified the same system that had been traumatizing them, that had been making them feel like a fish out of water. What do you think that system was? What did they say? What do you hate? And they all said, Mr. Key, we hate this.
I guess, well, I can think many different things that they hated. I imagine living in the projects. I imagine being isolated, and since they were in their class, as the slow kids.
So I'm right there. You're getting close to it. What system was isolating them and making them feel like the slow kids?
Besides the educational system?
That's it. But of course, they're not going to say the educational system. They say school. We hate school, Mr. Key. Now what? And they looked at me like, yeah, we messed your workshop up, didn't we? I'm like, no, you didn't actually. You're actually proving my workshop. Let me talk to you for a second. And so I sat them there already sitting down. But I said, look, if you understand that the thing that you were put on this earth to fix is identified by the thing that you hate, then you telling me, all of you, that you hate school is telling me that I'm looking at future educators.
Wow.
And it was like, oh snap, can I take my answer back? Like, nope, you said it. You the one that said it. Now, let's get at it though. So I said, look, there are 8 different learning styles in school. So of course they didn't know. A lot of people don't know that. And I said, but at most, schools are only teaching from 3. And those 3 languages aren't what you speak. It's the logical language, the left brain thinker that likes math, that math makes sense to them. And most people are like, I hate math, right? It's funny though, because one of the people who I interviewed is a teacher, and she said, I hated math, but instead of running away from it, I ran towards it. She got her master's degree in mathematics, and now she's like, she has made teaching her profession so that nobody else can have to walk around saying, I hate math the way she hated it. So she's operating her genius, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The other learning style is like a kinesthetic. No, I'm sorry. These are the 3 styles that most schools teach from. So one is the logical approach, the left brain approach. The other is the verbal approach, which is what I'm doing to you right now. I'm verbally presenting information to you. And the other is visual.
Yes.
And so if you don't speak one of those 3 languages, but that's the only way that you're receiving information, you'll be like, I don't understand what you're saying. I feel stupid. Place. Because you're going back to it day after day after day. Nobody's switching it up. You know what I'm saying? Like the same 3 learning styles are being used, and it's not speaking to you. Right. And you're going to feel like you don't belong. You're going to begin to feel marginalized, which is what all these little boys were telling me without knowing what they were.
Yes.
So I was like, look, I bet some of you may be kinesthetic learners, which means you got to move around to process the information. But when you get up to move around, you get told, hey, sit down, be still. You're like, dang it. Okay. Which, by the way, I believe that athletes, by and large, are kinesthetic learners, which is why they excel on the field and on the court, because the information that they have to use in real time is allowing them to move around while they receive it. Right? So I'm like, you might be a kinesthetic learner, or you might be expeditionary or exploratory, because that means you got to use your hands. But every time you go to put your hand on something, keep your hands to yourself. Stop that. Dang it. You're suppressing my learning. Or you just may be a right brain thinker, the creatives in the room, right? But you're not being fostered to at all, because everything is coming from the left brain. So do you see how powerful that is? That's a game changer. What I told them was, if you, instead of running away from this system that you hate, you went and got a degree and ran towards it from a teacher, now your learning style informs your teaching style. And you're going to reach other people who speak the same language as you that are feeling marginalized and left out.
Yeah.
Like, that's a game changer for the school system.
Huge.
Because when I say out loud in the classroom, the school system is broken, the teachers don't, they be like, in the background, like, yeah, it is. The reason why is because the full representation of all the 8 learning styles is missing.
Yes.
And so if you take that principle, that concept, and apply it to, and we're going to talk about the things that you hate shortly, to all of us, that begins to inform what it is we're put on this planet to do. So that being said, Cora, because I've been talking for too long, tell me what it is that you hate.
Oh gosh. Dang. For me, why is that a loaded question? I hated drugs. My parents were addicts growing up. Physical abuse, fighting, what else did I hate? I didn't like to see abused, and I still don't. Homeless people, like I hate it with a passion. Um, Abused mental people.
Yeah.
You know, they're mentally abused. I don't know. I just have a heart for people. So anything that's not easy accessible, like I will feed you, I will clothe you. Like I hate those things for those people. So of course, when I became an adult, I knew I wasn't going to do that. I was not going to do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you know, I ran. It sounds like I ran from it. Yeah. For myself. But a lot of people that come to me that I help are those folks. They dealing with drug abuse. They're dealing with homelessness and all of those things that I hate.
Yep. Yep. See, it's loaded because I knew that it was. As soon as you said it was loaded, I was like, it's multidimensional.
Yes,
So
it is.
basically, the marginalization of people, because everyone is in the image and likeness of God, so they deserve to be treated as such, treated with honor. But homeless people are not honored, right? And their homelessness stems from some type of chemical abuse, some type of physical abuse. It stems from a lot of brokenness. It stems from a lot of trauma, right? And then they get swept under the rug and looked at as if they don't exist. You know, this whole concept that's in schools of no child left behind, we need to have that present in society because we're leaving a large number of people behind and then wondering why, like, we're struggling the way we are because we're not allowing everyone access to the resources. And yeah, some people will abuse it, but still, that's not up for you to predetermine whether or not someone is afforded a chance, right, after X amount of mess up, right?
Right.
And so, you know, see, you even said this statement that proves that, you know, you do link passion to hate because you said, man, I hate that with a passion. Like that is that I just made up here in this session, right? You don't want to said it, but you it's something that we say a lot. I hate that with a passion, though.
We do.
Yeah. And so I want to backtrack for a second because one thing that I forgot to mention is what the world calls genius, the Bible calls the mind of Christ.
Okay.
Yes. And the reason that I believe that what Bruce George came up with was a God revelation is because when you think about let's just talk about biology for a second. Let's talk about how a body works, right? The Bible says that we are the many-membered body of Christ, right? And that many-membered body is governed by the head, because he's called the head of the church, right? Within that head, there's a brain. That brain communicates to every single part, every single member of the body so that nothing is missing, nothing is broken, nobody is left out. Nobody is more important than the other, right? The hand cannot say to the eye, I have no need of you, right? Yeah. They work in concert to perform something that they could not do individually by themselves. Now, when you stub your foot, the foot starts talking to the brain like, hey, I just got hurt. And then the brain starts talking to the rest of the body to start ushering in how to fix that hurt, right? So there's access, my big toe has access to my brain.
Yes.
Every part of my body has access to my brain. It communicates with it openly. The body of Christ works the same way. And so because each of us, as we find out how we fit into the body of Christ, have access to the mind of Christ, then that means that we have the mind of Christ, what 1 Corinthians 2:16 tells us. And so that's just another way to prove that we have genius. We have access to it.
You think deep.
It's just how God processes information for me. Like I like putting things together. I don't like putting together puzzles, but I like putting words and numbers together. I'm weird.
Genius. It's
my brand. It's my brand of genius, right?
Yep.
So how is that hitting you? Like, how is that hitting you as it relates to this genius, though?
I just never thought about it. Though I know, yes, we have access. Yeah, I mean, you're told with your example, toe in the brain. Of course, all the many works in between. But I didn't consider anything like that with God. I mean, yeah, you know, we talk about it and stuff, but
yeah, we talk about it.
Like now, like, yo, wait. So what you saying is this wiggle of this toe, but anyhow, you know, I can go down a whole different path. It makes sense.
It does, right?
It's making me think differently.
Yeah, it's just, so, you know, Jesus taught them parables so that people can process the information on their own time. Like, yeah, you're gonna get, you know how somebody will say a joke, you'll get that on the way home, right? That's how he was with these parables. Like, you're gonna get this on the way home. I'm gonna tell it to you in agriculture, because that's what y'all all about. You can get it on the way home. So check it. So we thoroughly define passion for you. That's great. So then the question becomes, let's go back to David and Goliath. Once David was like, I'm gonna kill this Goliath though. What happened was that King Saul was like, here, take my armor, young sheep bearer, whatever you want to call it, young shepherd. He was like, no, don't give me that. But that's a grown man armor. You see how big? No, I'm not. If you send me out there in this oversized armor, I'm going to die. And so he said, hey, I've been killing lions and bears with this slingshot. Give me my slingshot. And people probably laughed him to scorn, like, you gonna come up against a 9-foot giant with a slingshot? Like, give me these 5 smooth stones. I'm gonna show you something. So he knew what not to receive. Like, people was trying to immediately, when he stepped up, hey, I'm gonna handle this. Immediately people do what they've been doing since that time until now. Hey, you need to do this. Do it this way. And, you know, he's like, no, you trying to take me out of my element and get me killed out here. No, give me the thing that works for me. And so the question becomes, when we transition now from passion to talent, it becomes very simple. Like, Cora, what does God put in your hand? He talked to Moses. Moses was like, hey, he got all the excuse in the world. He's like, I stuttered. He was like, man, who made your mouth, man? Like, I called you to do this. Why are you telling me how you can't do it when I, your creator, are telling you? He's like, you know what? God was like, look, you're going to meet your brother Aaron. He gonna speak for you. He was still talking the same thing. I stuttered on. He was like, dude, what is in your hand? He was like, it's just this.
It's just this.
He's like, you know what happened? Throw it down on the ground, turn it into a snake, pick it up by the tail, turn it back into a staff. He was like, you got everything you need already. And so in like manner to Moses and David, our talent is something that we already possess that's pretty much common to us, that a lot of times we just write off like, but that's just that. I just do that, and ain't nothing really special about that. And so we have to realize that it might not be special in somebody else's hands, but it's very special in our hands. And so my question to you, Cora, is, what is your God-given talent?
God-given talent. I tend to make it easy for people to talk, even in the hardest things that they may be going through. For some reason, I can make it come out and use that such thing and turn it around as encouragement. Like, for me, it's simple.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it till now that it was possibly a talent, that I draw people in and be like, come on, babe, you know, and eventually that hurt thing comes up and I take that hurt thing and encourage them with the hurt that they just told me about.
Yeah.
A lot of the end results are like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? I don't know. So now as we're talking about this, that's a talent.
A talent. I accept it. Accept it. It's God-given. None of this stuff that we have is anything that we have on our own. God has equipped us with our passion, something that grieves his heart, sin that he hates that grieves his heart. He's equipped us with that. And then he's given us, you know, we talked about passion and what you hate being tied to what's broken in the world, right? And in a very practical way, if you had something broken in your house and between you and your husband, you was like, I think we can fix that. Then the next thing that you will look for is, well, what's the right tool to fix this thing that's broken? And T for tool, T for talent. Your talent, Cora, is your tool that God has given you to address the brokenness, the thing that you hate. And, you know, just fast forward into the end of the equation. Your purpose in life, Cora, is to identify God-given talent and use it as a tool to address the thing that you hate, which is the brokenness that's in the world that's afflicted you.
Yeah.
When you begin to do that, Cora, you are walking out your genius. When I was sitting there listening to everything that every organization was saying at the Kingdom Advancement Center this past weekend at our conference, I was like, I see genius all around me. I was like the sixth sense. I see. Right. And so it's exciting for me. But like I said, sometimes somebody else has to point it out to you, like, hey, you know what you're doing is special, right? Like you got to see that. And you're like, well, this is what I do. Like, nah, it is what you do. But you know, other people may have the same passion as you because other people have been afflicted with drug abuse and all this other type of stuff and physical abuse that they've seen in their families. But the way you address it is different from the way somebody else addresses it. But guess what? As long as you're addressing it and they're addressing it, you're gonna tackle it from different angles, and it's going to come down. This is about casting down strongholds, the imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And so I don't know, like what I heard you say is your talent is providing a safe place for people to feel comfortable bringing up their hurts, their traumas, and then you're able to utilize that to counsel them.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you have a ministry right now where you do something like that already, but clearly this is speaking to a ministry that you have where you are to create a safe place for people to come into, a respite, if you will, a place of almost like a retreat. There's another word that's coming that I'm trying to tease out, but I'll just say, you know, a place that's almost like a retreat where people can come and just let their guards down and be received in love and be received in such a way that the things that are muddled in their mind, things that are convoluted and twisted around, you have a way of being able to untwist them and say, hey, look, this is who you've been. This is not who you are. Let me help you. And you're given words of wisdom and words of knowledge to begin to understand how to minister to people effectively to bring them out of the darkness and into the marvelous light. That's a whole lot to say, but that's the ministry that I see that you have. That's the component that you bring to Jehovah Mashek. That's the component that you bring to the church that you do currently belong to. So that if you're not currently walking in that, and it currently does not exist in your church, this is something that you should bring to the forefront and say, hey, look, I have a passion, I have a talent to address this brokenness that I see in our community.
It's funny you say that because my house now is an empty nest. We've had 3 different families here since my mom passed last year.
Okay.
And I'm in the room. Like this is where they stayed. I have a bed over here and all these. Like the first family I had, first it was the mother, which is mother grandmother, and then a week later, this was Mother's Day weekend. We had to go get her daughter and granddaughter. Here, she was able to, because she didn't trust people and she didn't, all these things. She left here in 90 days with her own apartment, her own job. They both had a job. They didn't need anything when they left here. And then the other lady that was here, she had 6 months worth of savings to get out and do what she needed to do. It's just, you said it without me telling you. And I told my husband, we've been a safe haven because he agreed. It was like, okay, babe, look, this is what we have. Can we help take care of them? They don't have to pay us anything. They just need to do A, B, and C. Like I was ministering at the table, at the dining room table, like, come on, girl, let's do Bible study, or just natural though. It just, you said it, my God-given talent, just to help them to get to the point where they needed to get to be better off. Now after that, I'm like, okay, Lord, who else you sending me, right? And not chasing those people, because I found I get hurt in that too. Because I still want to help. I had to learn to let you go, okay, and wait for someone else.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing.
See, so didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell
I
you
know.
that the vast majority of people are already operating in it? They just needed somebody to tell you that it's genius. And you
Yeah.
and that one little word put on it can really, kind of make you, it can take you to the next level. It's like something got unlocked, right? Um, either and I didn't say anything. I just let you tell it and then piece it together because this is a prophetic exercise, is what it becomes. And so either the person is already doing it and it was like, I ain't told nobody that I'm doing this. And I'm like, you speaking it, or they're already doing it or they're about to do it. I think I've already said that. So it's powerful that that's happening. Now I'm gonna ask you this question, and we're pretty much near the end now, but I'm gonna ask you this question. Do you have a name for what you do?
I do. It's called Aubriana's House.
Okay. So is there well, do you have a website or a Facebook page, or I want to help promote that? Like we've put the name out there.
So no, I don't have any of those things. It was an idea many years ago. I want to say maybe 20 years ago when my firstborn passed. Her name was Aubriana.
Okay.
And I told my aunt, I was like, I want to have a website where traumatized people will come and we give them free counseling and we do all these things 20 years ago. It's still there.
Yeah.
But right now it's just still the idea.
Yeah. Well, it might be time to execute on that idea you're already executing it, but just taking it to the next level, because God is highlighting that right now in this conversation. And it's amazing when we can take what was meant for evil and use it for good. That's what God does, right? And the scriptures say, of course I'm drawing a blank now, but the scriptures say, it's over in Romans 8:28 or 8:38. Let me try and look it up real quick without stalling out too much, because I'm drawing a blank. Because we process so much information today.
And I'm chopping through it, so I already find it. Me messing it up.
I think I got it. Yeah, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. So all the different things that you've experienced in your life that have traumatized you or loved ones around you is being used for good, so that others won't have to experience, or others don't have to wander around in the wilderness for 40 years in a circle and trying to figure out how to get out of this. You're a generational curse breaker.
Yes.
Right. And so I thank God for your ministry. I thank God for your husband coming into agreement. There's something important about mutual faith when it comes together, especially in a marriage. So, this is your, well, I won't say it. I'm gonna ask you again, Cora, as we end this. Do you consider yourself, Cora, to be a genius?
Heck yeah, I'm a genius.
Heck yeah. All right. My job is done. And so, I want to thank you for responding to the call when you heard it and coming on to the show. And that's the extent of it, because at the end of the day, Cora, it's my uncommon cue to see the genius in you.
Yeah. Everybody ain't able. It's good. And I like how you took the opportunity to go to the elementary schools to talk to the babies. Because, like you said, their world is so different. And it's very few of us who actually step in and tell them the opposite and show them the opposite and pour into them the opposite. So I'm glad. I'm happy to learn something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, we need more of this, because we do.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Make sure you pick up the book, Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny, by my dad, Reggie Legend, available on Amazon and at inkwellspoken.com. Connect with us at inkwellspoken on all social media platforms. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.